My childhood friend says I talk too much and don't act like a girl. He wants me to learn from the gentle school belle. But who knew the school belle would stare at my lips thoughtfully? I heard you talk so much you could make a mute speak. She told me to harass her autistic younger brother, saying she'd give me $1,000 for every word he spoke. The school beauty was still too naive. Cultivators of dark arts have their own methods. I walked to the back of the classroom and gently tapped on the quiet boy's desk. Aren't you going to explain to everyone about how you licked my feet while I was asleep last night? His eyes widened, cracks appearing on his icy expression. I didn't. I confidently turned back, flashing a radiant smile at the campus belle. Pay up. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Aren't you going to explain to everyone? Last night you licked my feet while I was asleep. The moment my words fell, the entire classroom plunged into deathly silence. The gloomy boy who had been keeping his head down in the corner slowly widened his eyes, cracks appearing on his frozen expression. I didn't. The campus belle walked up in a few quick steps. There was no disdain in her eyes, only utter admiration. I thought she was just joking, but to my surprise, she transferred the money without hesitation. While transferring the money, that famously aloof and beautiful campus belle's hands were trembling. She grabbed my arm as if she had found a lifeline. Master, please save my brother. She said her parents had taken Eugene to see psychologists both domestic and abroad. But the answer they received was always the same. The best solution is to find someone his own age, to help him experience the beauty that should belong to this stage of life. It was possible Eugene detested anyone's proximity except his family's, at our age. Saving face is everything. So no one was willing to deal with the headache of someone like Eugene and his foul temper. Keep pestering him, and I'll add 1,000 for every extra word you say. The school beauty held my hand as if she'd seen her savior. I held her hand, looking at the 1,000 yuan as if seeing a living bodhisattva delivering money. Isn't it just about harassing people? I'm quite skilled at it, from childhood to adulthood, in the eyes of all my teachers. I was nothing short of a reincarnated fly. In elementary school, to keep me quiet, my homeroom teacher went so far as to seat me next to a classmate with hearing difficulties. Later, I learned sign language and secretly chatted with my deskmate under the table, like performing hand seals in Naruto. Our hands flew so fast it was almost scary. When my deskmate got excited, their fingers nearly cramped from signing. The teacher approached my mom and told her I could strike up a conversation with even a stray dog on the street, suggesting she take me to see a doctor. This job was practically tailor-made for me, especially since Eugene is so handsome. I turned to look at Eugene. Eugene had only spoken 3 words before lowering his head again. He seemed annoyed at himself for speaking without thinking, now presenting the top of his dark head to us. The thoroughly ignored childhood friend Duke stubbornly moved closer. He saw me taking money from the school beauty and immediately tried to snatch my phone without a word. Chloe, our main focus should be on studying now. Stop hanging out with those shady characters. The school beauty, whom he had just called his goddess, turned around with cold, indifferent eyes, returning to her usual demeanor. Who are you calling indecent? Duke choked on his words and fell silent. I shook off his arm. I never realized before, Duke was such a bully who preys on the weak. Duke was about to say something more when the class bell rang, and I skipped back to my seat. That same day, the school beauty used her financial power to arrange for me to sit next to Eugene. Teacher, my younger brother belongs to a special group, and the main reason he's attending school here is to make friends. Chloe would be a perfect friend for him. The weather is getting hotter and hotter. I think our school really needs to install some air conditioners. The teacher shut up. When I moved to Eugene's side, he was still lying there asleep. Duke turned his head to look at me from the side, his gaze as if it could burn a hole through me. I stared at Eugene's neck for the entire class. He was clearly awake, yet he kept his head down just to avoid sitting next to me. How amusing. During the second break, I leaned close to his ear and whispered, Eugene, did you know your neck is so pale? Like a duck's. I kinda want to take a bite. Perhaps I got too close. Eugene jolted, suddenly lifting his head to stare at me in alarm. I picked up my phone, snapped a photo of his face, and sent it to his sister. How does this look like a child with autism? Isn't this quite interesting? This little expression is even more vivid than mine. But in the next few classes, I realized Eugene was so difficult to handle. No matter what I said, he remained as still as a log, until the school bell rang. My mouth was dry from talking, yet I was brimming with excitement, because no one had ever listened to me talk so much without calling me an idiot. Even if I didn't earn this money, I'd found a kindred spirit. I watched Eugene's slender fingers slowly close the textbook, letting out a mocking laugh. What's with the act in English class just now? Eugene's fingers froze. He glanced at me sideways before turning to walk out the door. I grabbed my backpack and hurried after him. His sister had told me earlier that their family driver would take me home today. My backpack was yanked back abruptly, the strap choking me as I rolled my eyes, turning around to see Duke standing behind me with a dark expression. Can't you see he doesn't even want to talk to you? Chloe, as a girl, have you no shame at all? The second time today, even though he's the guy I've had a crush on for so long, I can't stand him humiliating me repeatedly. I lifted my backpack and slammed it hard into his face. Duke stared at me in shock, my chest heaving violently. Do you have a problem? When I pester you, you say I'm shameless. When I pester someone else, you still say I'm shameless. What did you say this morning? That as a girl, I should be ashamed for always telling dirty jokes. I was so angry I laughed. I didn't even want to settle this score with him in the first place. It was because he used to tell dirty jokes on our way home from school every day, laughing so hard he nearly fell over, and I thought he was into that kind of thing. I stayed up all night studying pickup lines, just to get him to talk to me a little more. In the end, I became the school's most notorious pickup line spouting simp, so hard to please. Go die wherever you want. I shook off his arm and, seeing Eugene almost disappearing from view, quickly caught up. Eugene, why didn't you wait for me? I tilted my head and asked him. Eugene didn't answer me, of course. I turned to look at the nearby convenience store and commanded him, stand still, don't move. To my surprise, he actually stood still in place. I lifted my foot and circled around him on the ground. Wait for me. I'm going to buy something, or else I'll tell your sister about you stealing a kiss from me. Eugene looked up at me. This time he was clearly not as shocked as in the morning, but his dark eyes still stared at me in confusion. When I came out of the convenience store holding an ice pop, I immediately spotted Eugene standing obediently by the trash can, TSK, squinting. I thought to myself that my type should be Duke's kind of sunny boy. How come Eugene, this kind of gloomy, well-behaved puppy, is also so adorable? I licked my popsicle while thinking, finally came to a conclusion. It's not that I prefer any particular type, I'm just plain lustful. I shoved an ice pop into his hand. Eugene didn't take it, and with a splat, it fell to the ground. He kept walking ahead on his own. I picked up the ice pop, hurried after him, and shoved it into his hand again. It fell to the ground once more. I got annoyed. What a brat. I caught up in a few quick steps, yanked open his collar. Eugene finally lost his composure. He covered his neckline and took 2 steps back. Staring at me in shock, I grinned and handed him the popsicle. He took it. We walked forward side by side. Eugene but held the popsicle in his hand without eating it, so I leaned in and whispered to him, don't be shy. I won't tell anyone your sulkiness is pink. Eugene split the popsicle open, stuffed it into his mouth, and quickened his pace. See, people always pretend to be busy when they're embarrassed. Drink water when there's water. Suck on popsicles when there's popsicles. I watched Eugene licking his popsicle slowly and chuckled. Eugene, do you know popsicles can cool you down? Like when it's hot, you can stick one up a cowhide swallow's nest. Eugene stopped eating. He put down the popsicle, his mouth red from the cold, and quietly stared at me. Looks like you really have no way to deal with me. I feel a bit awkward. It seems this topic is indeed somewhat disgusting. I was about to change the subject. Eugene spoke his second sentence of the day. Pig. I froze for a moment, then was overjoyed. Oh right, it's pigskin swallows. I remembered wrong. Eugene, we have so much in common. I can't believe you watch these low-fat videos too. I thought the autistic teenager Eugene didn't use the internet. Turns out he's an expert web surfer. I jumped for joy, truly feeling like I'd found a kindred spirit in life. Stepping out of the luxury car, I enthusiastically waved goodbye to the campus belle, only to turn around and nearly die of fright. Duke stood at the stairwell, his gaze icy. "Does your mother know that you're getting so close to a sick boy?" I handed over the extra ice pop I had bought. Duke relaxed slightly and reached out to take it, but still didn't stop lecturing me. "Eugene clearly has some mental issues. Do you think everyone is as patient as me? Since childhood, you've been so noisy it's driving me crazy." Yet, I forcefully crushed the already melted ice pop and squirted it toward his face. He let out a startled cry, took 2 steps back, and the motion sensor lights on the staircase flickered on. Duke had sticky juice from the popsicle dripping down his face, glaring at me fiercely. "Are you insane?" I pulled out a tissue to wipe my fingers and walked past him, calling others crazy. "Looks like you're the one who's really lost it." Duke turned around, only to find I had already climbed up to the 2nd step. The next day during break, I asked to add Eugene on IG, and surprisingly he responded to me, "No." I picked up my phone to take his photo, but he frowned and waved me away. I reached for his phone in his pocket. Eugene reacted as if I was going for his family jewels, instantly retreating 2 steps in alarm while we were making a ruckus. Duke knocked on my desk. "Chloe, I won't hold last night against you. My mom made sweet and sour ribs tonight. Let's walk home together after school." I stopped tormenting Eugene and gave Duke a sidelong glance. Is he out of his mind? Didn't you understand what I said yesterday? I couldn't be bothered to deal with him. And when I turned my head, I saw Eugene had already stood up and walked out of the classroom door. I took a deep breath and turned to chase after him. Eugene was standing stiffly at the classroom door like an idiot. I guess he was trying to avoid me but didn't know where to go. His brain short-circuited. I found it amusing and reached out to poke him. "Hey, really not adding me?" He didn't speak, standing stiffly until the class bell rang. "Hey, the teacher's coming." I tugged at his sleeve. Eugene remained motionless. "What are you two doing standing here?" The music teacher frowned. I glanced at the statue-like Eugene, then back at the music teacher. "Teacher, Eugene has a stomachache." Eugene's pupils trembled slightly, surprised by my offhand lie. The teacher waved her hand, letting me take him to the infirmary. I'm tone deaf, and the only reason I could escape music class was by relying on Eugene being the teacher's pet in her eyes. I dragged him along like a lump of stone, and as we passed by the window, I caught sight of the gloomy-faced Duke. "Eugene, have you never skipped class before?" I pried open his hand. The boy's palm was warm, and a tingling sensation flickered through my heart. Shamelessly, I slipped my own hand into his. He didn't pull away. I pulled him through the alley by the school gate and found our favorite restaurant, where the owner cheerfully served us a bowl of noodles. "Bringing a friend, huh? Isn't this class time?" I grinned. "Yep, we skipped class." Eugene held his breath, raising his hand to cover my mouth in terror, as if wishing I could swallow my words on the spot. I was utterly delighted. "Eugene, who invented this little thing? It's so adorable. It perfectly hits all my cute spots." I brought over 2 small bowls. "Half for you, half for me. Our bond will never be." Eugene frowned at the bowl of noodles without saying a word. I thought he disliked it, but then he picked up his phone and handed it to me. I understood what he meant. He said he had money and could buy 2 bowls. Actually, it's because I couldn't finish it at all. I had just eaten breakfast, so how could I possibly finish a whole bowl? I took the opportunity to grab his phone and added my own IG. Eugene paused for a moment but didn't stop me. Eugene ate in silence, and even the most ordinary bowl of noodles took on an air of dignified elegance in his hands. Not until the meal was finished did I wipe my mouth, grab his hand, and turn to run. Eugene was stunned, stumbling along as he followed me until we'd run clear of the alleyway, at which point I finally turned back. The boy's eyes were frighteningly bright, as if he'd never done anything so rebellious in his life. His heart was beating so fast that I could hear it even though we were face to face. He grabbed my hand, pulling me back with a determined look in his eyes. I broke free from his grip. "We've already run away. How embarrassing would it be to go back now?" Eugene pursed his lips and stared at me in silence. He wasn't angry, but his eyes were filled with helpless indulgence and unwavering resolve about his boundaries. I looked at him with a playful grin. If you want me to go back, you'll have to tell the boss. Sorry, we're here to return the money, only then will I go back. Eugene stood at the alley entrance, wrestling with himself for a full 5 minutes before finally resigning himself to pulling me back the way we came. The boss was wiping the table and stared at us standing at the door like statues, frozen in place. I nudged him. Speak. Eugene had sweat beading densely in his palm, gripping my hand until it turned red, his ears frighteningly flushed. I thought he was about to give up, but the next second, I heard the uniquely Eugene-esque cool voice, stammering, "Sorry, boss, we're here to pay." The boss froze. She picked up a rag to wipe her hands, looking at me in confusion. What? I finally couldn't hold back and laughed until I doubled over. I have my boss on IG, and every time I just transfer the money directly, even with the homeroom teacher. I also Eugene asked for leave. But he's so silly, he believes whatever I say. Eugene was somewhat displeased, his lips moved slightly, and without a word, he turned to walk away. I chased after him, chattering incessantly. "Oh, I'm sorry, I just wanted to hear you say a few more words, Eugene. Your voice is so pleasant, you should speak more often." "Eugene, repeat after me. Chloe is so beautiful. I like Chloe." Eugene's ears turned even redder as he suddenly stopped in his tracks. I bumped into his back unexpectedly. He turned his head, looked at me for 2 seconds, then calmly uttered 3 words, "Shameless." I burst out laughing. "Eugene, your voice is so pleasant to hear." He clearly wanted to scold me shamelessly like Duke did, yet he phrased it so elegantly. Even after he said that, I still laughed heartily. He probably had never met a girl with such thick skin in his life. Eugene simply ignored me and stomped off angrily. In the evening, the school beauty transferred me 10,000 yuan. Eugene spoke at home today. He asked me, "Why are Dad's shoes so smelly?" "Master, you are the lucky star of our whole family." I laughed myself onto the bed, imagining Eugene frowning. It was almost unbearably adorable. I took out my phone to message Eugene, but the phone rang at that moment, and I impatiently hung up. It was Duke again. After blocking his number and IG, he started calling me from his mom's phone. I live across from Duke, and Duke's mom is nice to me. She gets along well with my mom. No matter how rebellious I am, I could never bring myself to block an elder. I rubbed my head in frustration and tossed my phone aside. What the hell is wrong with Duke? Since childhood, I've been chasing after him, yet he's never once called me. It's always been me bothering him. I scrolled through the chat history with Duke. It was mostly me doing all the talking, with him only replying with an MHM or O every few hundred messages. As soon as I went back, I noticed the message Eugene had sent me. I thought he would be as indifferent as when we met, but ever since adding him on IG, Eugene has replied to every single message I sent, though it was just a simple word or two. I felt an unprecedented emotional value. He even stole my memes to reply to me. Later, when I sent him flirty memes, he stopped stealing them. Perhaps autistic kids Eugene just don't like to talk much, but they're quite passionate on the internet. Immersive translate. Good morning, Eugene. I greeted him with a smile. The aloof boy didn't speak, just glanced up at me. I felt a bit puzzled. Was he being unusually quiet today? The next second, I saw the breakfast on my desk. "Did you bring this for me?" I exclaimed in surprise. Eugene nodded, then shook his head. "My sister." He still spoke so little, yet I understood. "Then thank your sister for me. The soup dumplings from this place are really hard to get." I was eating with greasy lips. Eugene handed me tissues from the side. Duke stepped forward, glaring at me impatiently. "How long are you going to keep this up? Not answering calls, not replying to messages. You live so close, yet you're like a rabbit, nowhere to be seen." I put away the buns on the table. "Since you know I'm avoiding you, then you shouldn't appear in front of me." Duke was so angry that his chest heaved violently. "You don't really think a wealthy young master like him would take a liking to you, do you?" My chewing of the bun paused. Eugene also stopped his motion of pulling out a tissue. He lifted his eyes and looked calmly at Duke, while I suddenly slammed the table and stood up. "Duke, we're all still students. Your mind is truly filthy." Your head is filled with nothing but romance and love. Is this how a student should behave, as classmates? If you can't even think of helping others, the least you could do is refrain from sowing discord here. Duke opened his mouth to speak, but I immediately cut him off. Or could it be that you're in a relationship yourself, which is why your mind is full of such thoughts? Duke was furious with me. Chloe, I'm saying this because I consider you a good friend. Someone like Eugene, a young master from that kind of family, could have any woman he wants. Before he could finish, the cold voice of our homeroom teacher sounded behind him. Duke, come to the office with me. I almost died laughing, but when I turned my head, I found Eugene staring fixedly at me. His eyes deep and unreadable. Before I could speak, he pressed his lips together and turned his head away. I rubbed my forehead. All right. The little princess is angry again. You really don't need help. I was wrong. It's me who needs your help. Can I copy your homework? Eugene ignored me, so I tugged at his sleeve and shook it repeatedly. That abstract video you shared with me yesterday, I can't find it anymore. Can you send it to me again? He still ignored me. I sighed and resignedly slumped onto the desk. Within minutes, my phone vibrated. I pulled it out from the desk compartment to see Eugene's transfer notification. Keep helping me. I've got money. Don't talk to him. I can't stand him. Who wouldn't be charmed by such a straightforward puppy who also wields the power of cash? I clutched my chest and took the money without a word. The school bell said she wanted to treat me to a meal, mentioning that her parents wanted to thank me in person. Eugene has been talking more and more at home lately. Though the conversations are brief, they still see it as a sign of hope. I waved my hand. These are just minor issues, actually. Eugene is quite different from ordinary people. On average, if I say 100 sentences, getting 2 or 3 responses from him is already quite good. As summer vacation approaches, I've been sharing travel destinations with my best friend from the next door class. Recently, I've made a small profit and plan to celebrate my birthday during summer vacation by traveling abroad with my best friend. A scorching gaze came from beside me. I turned my head and saw Eugene staring at my phone. Seeing his interest, I casually opened one and asked, Eugene, where do you like to go for fun? He didn't speak, calmly withdrawing his gaze. I didn't expect him to respond to me anyway. Then, Eugene's calm voice sounded above my head. Are you going on vacation this summer? Yes, I want to visit Country M. I casually extended the invitation. Want to go together? Eugene fell silent again. I swung my legs and swiped to the next video. The classmate in front turned around excitedly, sharing with me the tourist attractions he visited in Country M last year. The Eugene next to me seemed to say something, but it was too fast for me to catch. I turned my head and found he had already laid on the table without saying a word. He was angry again. Recently Eugene has been getting angry for no apparent reason. I didn't know what was wrong with him. After poking him twice with no response, I simply went about my own business. School was about to be out soon. When I finished packing my bag and looked up, I noticed Eugene had already packed his backpack and was standing at the classroom door. He stood outside the classroom, the setting sun casting light on his profile. I knew he was waiting for me, so I quickened my pace, thinking I'd ask him why he was upset today as we walked, but the next second, Duke's face suddenly appeared right in front of me, startling me. What do you want now? I frowned at him. Duke casually tossed a key over. Your mom called but couldn't reach you, so she asked me to tell you that you'll be staying at my place for the next week. Your parents have something going on. I took a deep breath. Can't I just order takeout at home by myself? When I looked up again, Eugene was already gone. Irritated, I rubbed my head and chased after him, only to find Eugene had already left. I think I understand why Eugene was upset. He seems to have a particular possessiveness toward me. This feeling isn't like love. It's more like not allowing anyone to covet a favorite toy. I get angry when I talk to the person in front of me, and when I talk to Duke, he gets even angrier, but I don't find him unreasonable at all. I think it's utterly adorable. Isn't possessiveness just the beginning of affection? I kicked my feet as I walked home, utterly bored. I've gotten so used to riding Eugene's family car lately that suddenly having to walk home like usual made my feet ache from the rubbing. There was a rustling sound behind me, But when I turned around, there was nothing there. I rubbed the goosebumps on my arms. Could I have been targeted by some troublemakers? I took a few more steps, and there were still faint, barely noticeable footsteps behind me. I suddenly turned my head and saw the rigid Eugene, a hint of amusement flickering in my eyes. I turned and ran towards him. Eugene stood frozen, as if wanting to hide, but with not even a trash can around, his feet remained rooted. Eugene's CPU overheated again. Eugene, are you following me? His gaze swept lightly over my face as he walked slowly beside me without speaking. Where's your family's car? Took my sister home. Why don't you go back then? He fell silent again. I grinned and leaned in closer. Is it because you can't bear to leave me? Eugene remained silent, his steps unsteady, almost tripping over my teasing words. My house has plenty of rooms, I chattered all the way. And when we arrived downstairs at my place, Eugene, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly spoke. Stay at my place. I froze, staring at him blankly. What did you say? Eugene's eyes seemed to hold a glimmer of starlight as he gazed at me steadily. Not repeating himself a second time, I instantly realized he had heard Duke say that my parents were away on business and I'd be staying at his place for a few days. I found it amusing. I won't be staying at his place. Eugene's expression seemed to brighten a little as he nodded. Kicking a pebble at my feet, I said, Eugene, do you like me? Eugene's face flashed with a hint of panic, his disheveled hair obscuring his expression. He lowered his head too quickly. I couldn't see anything clearly. I just played it off as teasing him, chuckling and waving my hand at him. All right, you should head back now. It's truly an honor to be escorted home by the young master, watching Eugene disappear from sight. I turned around to head home, but the sight of my parents walking towards me startled me. Weren't you two on a business trip? My mother's expression was grave. Grandma is sick. I've already asked for leave from your teacher. Since you're about to start summer vacation in a week anyway, we'll go straight to Grandma's place. Our hometown wasn't nearby, which meant I wouldn't be able to go to school tomorrow morning. So I took out my phone and messaged Eugene. Then turned to follow my parents to Grandma's house. Late at night in the stillness, I swiped through my phone but still didn't receive Eugene's reply. Frowning, I scrolled up through the chat history. Is he still angry? The village had poor signal. All the messages I sent him showed red exclamation marks. I stayed up very late but only managed to send out 3 messages, and Eugene never replied. I sighed helplessly and tossed my phone aside. But on the 3rd night, in the dead of silence, a small pebble landed by my window. I froze for a moment, instinctively walking to the windowsill, and couldn't help but widen my eyes. A coldly elegant young man stood beneath the window. The silver glow of moonlight bathed his figure, casting a slender shadow. I ran downstairs still in my nightgown. Eugene stood by the weeds in the countryside, his arms covered in mosquito bites, occasionally raising a hand to swat at them with stiff movements like a delicate puppet. I found it amusing. What brings you here? I didn't expect him to answer, yet he actually looked me in the eyes and said seriously, I couldn't reach you. I was taken aback. Didn't I send you a message? Lost my phone. He pursed his lips, a flash of annoyance flickering in his eyes. My phone got stolen when I was walking you back. I found it somewhat amusing. It was probably the young master's first time walking at night, and he'd already run into a pickpocket. How did you manage to find your way here? Ask your friend. I found it strange. Someone like Eugene would actually ask others for information. The more I thought about it, the funnier it seemed, until even the corners of my eyes sparkled with laughter. Eugene grew somewhat annoyed at my laughter. I thought you were angry, he replied. I was taken aback. Why would I be angry? He didn't answer my question. It's rare to see Eugene talk so much, so I ended up teasing him like a puppy. Eugene, you're so talkative today. I want to kiss you. His eyes widened, as if blaming me for interrupting him, yet also seemingly caught off guard by my shameless words, the tips of his ears turning frighteningly red. You asked me if I couldn't bear to part with you. I ignored you, and you got angry. Under the moonlight, the boy's expression was especially earnest. Yes, I can't bear to part with you. I listened in a daze as he answered his own question. Is this kid out of his mind? He seemed quite displeased with my reaction, his frown deepening. And you? Could you bear to part with me? It suddenly dawned on me, Eugene thought that on the night of our parting, when I asked him a question and he didn't respond. I got angry and ignored him. That's why he rushed here in such a hurry. What kind of question is willing or not willing? Have I ever asked such a thing? My eyes lit up. Eugene, are you saying you like me and now you're asking if I like you? Eugene froze for a moment. And then I watched as his blush spread from his neck all the way to the tips of his ears. Yes, he said. I didn't expect him to be so straightforward. It's absolutely adorable. I couldn't help but want to pull him into my arms and give him a good squeeze. And in fact, I did just that, after all. I've always been a girl with audacious desires. Eugene, can I touch you? I chuckled mischievously. Eugene's voice carried a hint of helplessness. You've already touched it. Feeling the firm abs beneath my palm, I let out a huff. I actually managed to land someone this amazing. How did you get here? I asked him. He turned his head and looked not far away. I was startled, only then noticing the driver who often drove us was parked at the village entrance, now covered in mosquito bites. Desperately swatting at the mosquitoes, the corner of my mouth twitched. You go back first, I'll return tomorrow too. He nodded and moved my hand away from his chest. See you tomorrow. I was overjoyed. Eugene used to leave without a word when saying goodbye to me. But now he even says see you tomorrow. How great love is. I didn't expect the first person I'd see upon returning wouldn't be Eugene, but rather Duke. He blocked my doorway. Where have you been these past few days? I couldn't be bothered to respond to him. My parents, on the other hand, greeted him warmly. Duke, Chloe's grandmother isn't feeling well, so we went back to our hometown for a bit. Aren't you about to go on holiday soon? Let's not send Chloe to school these few days. If there are any workbooks, could you bring them back for us? Duke has always been well behaved in front of my parents. I couldn't stand his hypocritical act, so I grabbed my suitcase and turned to go back to my room. As soon as I entered the house, the phone rang. I checked my phone. It was Eugene. He said he was downstairs at my place. Mom, I'm going to take out the trash. Excited, I grabbed the trash bag and turned to run downstairs. Eugene was crouching by the trash bins downstairs of my apartment, looking like an abandoned puppy. I swallowed hard. Damn, how can someone be this handsome in the world? And this incredibly handsome person just happens to be my boyfriend. Can you believe it? My heart bubbled with infinite pink happiness as I rushed forward in a few quick steps. Eugene stood up, and I quickly threw myself into his arms. He staggered back 2 steps from my impact, then a smile rippled through his eyes. Eugene still wasn't used to smiling. He struggled to lift the corners of his mouth, managing only a somewhat gentle expression. I didn't mind. Our home's Eugene is so handsome that even picking his nose looks cool. I pulled him aside to whisper. Chattering endlessly about everything that happened at Grandma's house, just like before. Eugene listened quietly, nodding occasionally. He still spoke very little, but his sweet, well-behaved appearance made my heart blossom with joy. Calculating that the time was about right, I reluctantly bid him farewell, stood on tiptoe, and planted a light kiss on his cheek, satisfied to see Eugene turn as red as a boiled shrimp again. I playfully patted his butt like a female rogue. I'm heading back now. Teasing a young boy is truly exhilarating, but as I reached the stairwell, I was nearly scared to death. Duke looked grim. Behind him were my parents. Eugene stood not far away. Duke spoke in a voice so low only the two of us could hear. Chloe, is your affection so cheap that you can give it to someone else so quickly? I also looked at him coldly. What?
Much happier dating someone normal than being with someone who has psychological issues. She tried to phrase it as gently as possible. I know Mom only wants what's best for me. I nodded. I love him, Mom. When he first met me, he could barely even speak. Look, he talked so much with you all today. I believe he'll be fine. My mother nodded and ultimately said nothing more. I didn't expect Eugene to act so quickly. That same night, he sent me a message. Tomorrow, the driver and I will pick you up. Can you come to my house for a meal? My parents would like to meet you. Sitting in the car, I was so nervous that I tightly gripped Eugene's hand, leaving bright red marks. Eugene placed his hand on my wrist. He wasn't good at comforting people, simply telling me, "Hello, everyone will like you." In a daze, I suddenly remembered how he once coldly scolded me with a stern face, saying, "Shameless." Somehow, My nervousness just melted away. I've fantasized about many scenarios. For example, Eugene's parents looking down on me from their high position, giving me a cold sidelong glance. When Eugene isn't paying attention, his mother slaps a check on my face, telling me to leave her son. But when the car drove through the gate, I was still stunned. Eugene's parents stood in 2 rows, along with their household servants, dressed in bright red attire as if attending someone's wedding. The school beauty stood right in the center, holding a huge banner that read, "Welcome the Eugene family's savior, Chloe Miss, to our humble abode." Humble abode. I twitched the corner of my mouth. Such a massive villa, with such luxurious decor, and they call it a humble abode. Eugene's mother grabbed my arm, tears streaming down her aged face in excitement, nearly on the verge of kneeling before me. "Chloe, you must stay with our Eugene. You have no idea how many psychologists I've found for him over the years, how many companions I've arranged, boys and girls alike. None of those kids could last more than a week by Eugene's side. Only you." She paused for a moment. "Only a girl as tenacious, resilient, and interesting as you could open Eugene's heart." The corner of my mouth twitched. "Auntie, what you really meant to say was that only someone as shameless as me could open his heart, right?" Not long after, Duke moved away. While chatting on the phone with Eugene, I walked out of the house. My dad had asked me to take out the trash downstairs. As I pushed the door open, I bumped into Duke, who was moving things. I froze for a moment. He seemed noticeably thinner. His gaze lingered on my face for a few seconds, his eyes holding an unfathomable sadness. Clutching the trash bag, I headed downstairs. Suddenly, from behind, came Duke's voice. "Chloe." I turned my head. Duke stood at the top of the stairs, as lofty as I had looked up to him countless times before, yet somehow different. He lowered his head slightly, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry. If I had faced my feelings sooner, if I hadn't used those hurtful words to humiliate you, would you still have liked me?" I forced a smile, shook my head at him, and turned to continue walking downstairs, on the phone. Eugene's voice grew deeper. "You promised me you wouldn't talk to him." I clicked my tongue lightly. "I didn't say anything, did I?" He took a deep breath. "You shook your head. How did he know? He even notices that." I widened my eyes. Had Princess Eugene been getting a bit too cocky lately, riding on the favor she received? It suddenly struck me. Not long after we became deskmates, he transferred a sum of money to me, not letting me talk to Duke. Back then, he barely paid me any attention, only knew how to assert his dominance. "Eugene, when did you start liking me?" I thought he wouldn't answer this question, but after 2 seconds of silence, his voice carried a gentle smile. "From the first moment I looked up at you. When sunlight fell across the desk, I suddenly wanted to speak to you."